Hello, there will be lots of new stuff in this video. A man in Eastern Europe had a vision of the entire end times that happened on 30th of March this year. So that will be the first part. And then a story that happened here with my friend in relation to forced marking, forced fixation. Because it came up a lot in the prophecies that they will be forcing the people to do it, and that sounded scary. So this is a practical illustration, this real case of why that can happen to people. And I think we've got a lot to learn from this example. And before I start with the vision, somewhat sad update about the subject of this video. Postal parcels disappearing into black hole big time. I don't think there has been such a massive theft in the history of postal services. So that went on for a couple of months, and here in the news, that is since the last Monday, since a couple of days, new rules. And although the headline here talks about delays, if you read the actual rules, it is not at all about delays, but more disappearances and people getting penalized as a security threat for not properly labeling their whatever they send by post. And what does it mean, proper labeling now? By the way, this new law is already in force in the United States and the European Union. So every single small part in every parcel has to be labeled and numbered. The number has to be specified, and not the number that it has in the store where you purchased it from, but some sort of universal number, readable for their artificial intelligence. In other words, they need to know which number underwear you wear. Of course, if you buy underwear of different size, it means it's for somebody else, and it means they're not tracking properly everything one does and buys. So this is not allowed. That's why they have these penalties. I could not find any information what to do when the goods that you're sending are, for example, handmade by yourself. Then they don't have an universal number. Then how can you send anything? Is it just gonna disappear as it has been disappearing already for a couple of months? There was no answer to that important question. But the other reason for which they want a number that their artificial intelligence can read is what if you are buying food supplies, for example? What if you buy too much and you can survive longer time without the artificial intelligence having a total control over you? Where I live, the food prices are stable, more or less. But even here, they had these printed signs in the supermarket some time ago that you cannot buy lots of provisions, like to stack up. You can only buy whatever is you need for your current needs in short term only. Anyway, it wasn't really enforced, but they're already having this idea to control all this. And look at the photo they have put under this announcement, the man grinning at us. Why is he so happy? Because the sheep are happily, complying with all this nonsense without, mostly even without noticing. And speaking about long-term food storage, there will be a lot of new stuff in the end of this video as well. So I know the man whose vision I'm gonna tell you about since a couple of years. He helped me in the past with making the videos. And already at that time I had the impression that he's a genuine source, not only in terms of being properly able to channel information without distorting it, but also he's a person who will remain with the side of the light. Not like not only some, but most of the other channels who may really channel entities, but they're gonna distract your attention with sweet talk about the new age, and at the end their followers will join the dark side. Probably I'm gonna tell you much more about him and the ancient Bogomil spirit with which he is in communication in one of the future episodes about the new Slavic material which I acquired recently. For now, I can only say that I find him as very reliable source, and actually it was in 2019 when he was given the first clues that there's gonna be a 7-year period starting at that time and ending in year 2026, and that will be turbulent, and after that even a worse period will start. At that time, that was shortly the pre-bug era, he was warned about the bug, and he was explicitly told not to take the fix no matter what. So that was in terms of timing, what he was told previously. Now, in this current vision, he wasn't given a precise timing. However, he was given an indication that there's gonna be 4 periods, let's call them 4 seasons symbolically, which will melt into each other. There won't be any sharp boundary between them, and they will be of equal duration. Although he was not given any indications how long is gonna be that duration. And when we say seasons, it doesn't necessarily mean that the entire ordeal will be 1 year long in our earthly time. So seasons is only symbolical. But he definitely got the impression that the entire saga will develop within his lifetime, and as of today, he's 43 years old. And he saw the apocalyptic events from the perspective of somebody who is living through them, like a first-hand experience, and not like, for example, somebody who is watching from heaven or something of that sort. So the first period in which we really seem to be at this point is that people are trapped in a digital reality. Most of the people are possessed by these malevolent frequencies. To be more precise, this is direct malevolent evil spirit possession, but they don't realize it. And they deceive themselves that although, yeah, there are some severe problems around, but life somehow goes on. There is no a real special reason to worry or do anything about it. There will be also, or there is, I don't know, a significant increase in natural disasters all around the world during this period. I'm not sure if this is already the case or the worst is yet to come, because there aren't any in my area yet, but surely from whatever we are given in the news, there are more natural disasters than it used to be, let's say 100 years ago. The rate has increased, and we don't even know properly how many fold it has increased due to the poor and distorted news reporting. They do mention some of the main disasters, but they don't reflect properly their impact. Instead, they distract people's attention with spicy stories about getting married to sex dolls or to holograms, promoting their transhumanist project, which they have colored in very attractive flair with the help of Hollywood, and now they are successfully turning the population of Earth into cyborgs. So the first period was symbolically seen as hot summer, and the second one, the autumn, is way worse. The earth is already visibly different. Almost all, most infrastructure is destroyed by the natural disasters and social upheaval. And in autumn, it is the cruel gangs, rule of the gangs. All these people who have already lost their mind during summer because of the malevolent frequencies, they will start forming these gangs and going around to look for food or anything evil that they can do. The governments will not be that influential as they are now. They will be just some of the gangs. There will be also lots of private gangs. And at that point, it will be actually even impossible to distinguish which is a government gang and which is private, because anyway, even now, big corporations and governments, they are already breeding private armies, which we don't know about. Like in Russia, they're already running rampant. We had some incidents also in New York where we had heavy military without any, sign on their uniform to which gang they belong. So this is gonna be on the rise, and they're gonna terrorize the people like anything. There will be no police to protect the people from the gangs. Not at all. Those who have unpaid karma, they will suffer greatly. And in all these seasons, also in the first one, people will start dying in great numbers. In the second season, many of them will be wounded or killed by the gangs. In other prophecies, these gangs are also described. First, they will start forming in the cities due to intense hunger, because hunger will hit there first when the supermarkets get empty. And after they steal everything they could from whatever soul has left alive in the cities, gradually they will start shifting their operation to the suburbs and eventually even to the countryside. The way all the members of all these gangs are gonna end is that after finishing off the helpless people, they will start simply killing each other, and eventually they will wipe each other until the end. All these banks and powerful institutions, they will have their own gangs, which over the scope of couple of years will eliminate competition, and then at the end they will kill each other, all of them. The only safety, the only thing which one can do practically at that time, is to stay far away from any gangs and do not attempt to make any deal with them, or try to get some sort of protection from them, because they will look like really powerful. They will have all the guns. As long as one settles any contract with them, that will be the end. So the people who are badly possessed, they will find some sort of excuse inside their hearts to join some of these gangs, survival of the fittest or something else which they will consider appropriate. And the people who still have some sense in their head left, they will be often forced to make groups, mostly with strangers actually, to try to somehow survive together, to scavenge for food. Especially in the cities, it will be very difficult. Around the city centers will be probably impossible, because that's where the gangs will be concentrated. And actually, towards the end of his vision, the seer realized something that which I have been noticing myself during the last year, actually, that these groups are very important. And although at first sight it may seem that you're stuck with some strangers, and even inside the groups there will be often very much tension, at the end he said it will transpire that it wasn't that much by chance that these people got grouped like that. And that's what I've been noticing, that anyway, when this all experience their earthly life, their immediate family, and the most important people in their life are usually souls with which they have a connection in the spirit world, especially in their groups, because there are groups of souls over there for learning, and also some groups are connected in bigger groups. So this is anyway valid for all our incarnations. regardless of the apocalyptic times, but because this is such a crucial period, it may end up that the people that at first sight may seem to be strangers are actually souls with which you had much more incarnational relationship over your many lifetimes than some of your even immediate family. I guess these groups, together with the tense relationships that will develop within them, they will be mostly phenomena in the cities. And this man who had the vision, he survived the apocalypse in a city, I guess somewhere in the outskirts, because he says that towards the center it's almost impossible to survive. But the source of information which is giving him all these visions, this source knows that he is connected to the newearth channel, and many people have been writing me with fear that they cannot leave the cities. So I see also this vision as a kind of a message of hope that, especially in the suburbs, there will be some chance. It will be way more difficult, but there will be some chance. So one other prophecy, if you remember, I think it was an Orthodox prophecy. It explained that in the cities it will work with these groups, while in the countryside, mostly people will be able to remain in their houses, but still they will be terrorized by the city gangs. And then comes the winter season in his vision. That's way worse, even than the rule of the gangs, which was the autumn season. His group, although greatly reduced in number already, they're still surviving in some sort of a semi-demolished house in the city. But it is deadly dangerous to go out on the streets of the city, even during daytime. But because some of the members in his group are meant to survive, somehow the destiny provides them with food. And he clearly remembers that the fear of remaining hungry was way less than the fear of not having water. Actually, that is the main thing during the winter season, the lack of water. Also in the Otrok Vyacheslav prophecies and a few other reliable prophecies, that is said to be the main problem at this time. And it is clear, I think, for everybody at this point, that the winter season clearly corresponds to the Great Tribulation, and the autumn to the pre-tribulation. But this is a parallel which I am making. The seer himself did not make this parallel, so it should not be used as an indication in terms of what the duration of these periods will be, because as it was in my own vision, and it's obviously so that things are not completely predestined, and there will be variations. And here comes something very important, which I hope all of you will remember, because you may need it. At this point, if you're able to find water, it means you're on the right path. And those who are demonically possessed, they will be dying of thirst. This was also in a few other prophecies. So water will simply escape, it will elude those who have taken the wrong path. This year he did not see Christ or people with markings on their bodies. However, he clearly sees two types of people, going the right way and those going the wrong way. And although water will be allotted by a divine intervention at that point, I don't see any harm to prepare some sort of containers. It's not that difficult to bear in the ground a few hundred liters or even 1,000. It's actually relatively easy to accomplish. And also the conditions in which his group survives are just deplorable. He sees himself trying to desperately clean at least a bit the rubble and the garbage in this demolished place. But it is just hopeless. Everything is the entire city. He saw a city from a bird view towards the end. Everything is absolutely in ruins, although he was given a hint that there were some still been buildings standing somewhere else on earth, but not in the city in which he survived. They had to sleep without mattresses on the debris. It was just pathetic from all sides. And the way he saw it in these groups in the cities, there will be still mixture of godly and ungodly people in the same group, and some of them will be like confused. But even the weaker ones can make it if they, in their confusion, somehow or other, decide to stick to the advanced souls in their group and do not take the path of crime for which people will be finding excuses at every step in those times. Many will think, oh, survival of the fittest, and will become ruthless and rude in those days. But actually, exactly as in the Bible, it will be survival of the meekest. Ironically, it will not be the toughest who will inherit the earth, but the softest. Another advice that the seer gives is that if you have relatives which deserves that you remain with them, don't get separated from them even for a short time, even for an innocent business trip or something like this, because you may never see them again. I don't know if he would advise so as of starting of today or starting somewhere around year 2026, but this is what he said. And finally, by the end of the winter season, some one fourth of the people in his group survived. And if we take this to be symbolic, that one fourth of the people in groups will survive, or one fourth of the Earth's population, this is pretty much the most optimistic vision I have heard so far. But he himself also mentioned that humanity did not take the worst option. It could have been even worse. So, and then comes the springtime in his vision, which I find unique to his vision, because most of the other prophecies, not all, but most of them, they end a bit like a fairy tale, and then comes the Jesus, and all of a sudden the new earth starts. But from Set and few other sources, all of which are reliable, we understand that it will not be exactly like this. It will be a couple of decades until the proper new earth starts. So what happens in this transitory period? Well, at that time, all the demonic creatures are defeated. He sees them symbolically bound with ropes to all those ruins in the cities. They suffer, they are hungry, emaciated, but they cannot move. So evil has been completely defeated also in the astral field around Earth. So no more parasites, but then only 3 people in his group are alive by then. And the question comes, then what to do next? The weakest one in the group, he cannot imagine any other existence. The only idea that he could come up with was to try to clean the rubble and build another civilization, like the one we had before, with the cars, with the pollution, and basically continue in the same way, just without the demons, a bit less corruption, but not much difference in overall. But the 2 other souls in the group, they are wiser, and everybody's vision is already opened, and they see that a lot more is coming, that the real thing is actually about to arrive. So they even give up all these attempts to find somewhat better demolished house in the ruins of the city, which was their hiding place. They understand that that is useless, because what is about to come is completely divorced from the current civilization and its ruins. All infrastructure is completely destroyed. all the parasitic governmental and non-governmental organizations are obliterated together with their gang members and the people who bought into their stupid lies. That is no longer there. The seer at that point clearly feels that there are still some houses and buildings left undisturbed somewhere on earth, but he cannot see exactly where is that. So if you happen to survive until those times, have no fear that you will be left until the end of your life in these pathetic ruins of the dead parasitic cancer. So this is the gist of his vision. You can read a bit more, a bit different version in his own writing. Link to the file you can find in the description. What I told you is based not only on what he wrote, but we also spoke a long time personally. And one point to avoid misunderstanding, towards the end of the file, he mentions that maybe he has this idea, maybe Saturn, the planet Saturn, is astrologically connected with the end times. Of course, it must be. It is one of the great movers of destiny. It's impossible that it is not involved in the apocalyptic scenario. All the planets will be involved for sure. But I'm mentioning this to avoid one misunderstanding. The Bogumil spirit, ancient spirit with which he is in touch, he is teaching him already some glimpses of the future sciences. So when he talks about the influence of Saturn, you should understand that this is in the reference system of a completely new science and not in the newspaper gossip type astrology that you find amongst the new age gurus. And I'm specifically mentioning this point because I've noticed that many of the bogus prophets, which may not be necessarily false channels, but they might be channeling demonic entities, they very often talk about Saturn and its influence in the end times scenario. So I'm making this point to be absolutely clear that we are talking about completely different things, and I have nothing to do with all these people who are telling you stories about Saturn. And at the end, after you hear all their explanations, it's like mostly waste of time. What is the conclusion after all? They will tell you also about your personal horoscope. Oh, you're in a time of great transformation. When I can tell you that even without making any calculations and pretending that I'm reading your chart, because we are all in times of great transformation. And something else which I notice more and more about these bogus prophets, which are leading the people straight into the mouth of the Antichrist, is that they're exactly like in the prophecies. Uh, and they're described in such a way they will be telling you sweet things about the new age and not a word about the Antichrist. So at the end, what they're telling you and how the new age will be and how your thoughts will manifest, it's absolutely possible that even all of that is true. However, when they miss out this important information that you have to pass a test to actually get there, and instead of that, telling you general things like don't fear, and when applied to the current situation, that means enroll into the army of the devil, they're basically pushing you in the direction that you will never see the new earth that they're talking about. And exactly as it is said in the Bible, the last will become first in the New Age. What that means exactly is that seemingly very low profile, ordinary people that nowadays are not held in high respect, like this man from Eastern Europe. He's nothing special if you look at his life from the so-called normal perspective nowadays. But he is the type of people that will, as they say, save the earth with his purity, because he is in touch with really ancient, benevolent spirits. And I assume that these spirits will have more to share in the months and years to come on our channel. And now I'm gonna tell you a story from my area which turned into a disaster for a person. Now he's, I mean, held against his will. And anyhow, why forced fixing and forced marking can occur, I think that is what we can learn from this story. So I came to know this Christian man some couple of months ago, and I was very happy that I met him because he was a high level Christian. He figured out all the things which I've been telling in the entire end times series by himself. It's not that he heard them from me, he reached to the same conclusions independently based on Christian sources. And he was very happy that he met me, because I was practically the only person who understood about the marking and was willing to resist it, that he knew. So far, so good. But then the last 2 weeks in which I could see him, he started getting somewhat resentful towards me, very slightly. And he said, "You know, I started listening to this very pure Christian teacher on YouTube, and maybe it is not so safe, because you're reading other books besides the Bible. One should read only the Bible. This is the only secure place." And I was like, "What's wrong with you? You know yourself, even in the Bible, it is said there will be more prophecies coming when the end times come. How can you hear about them if you never listen to anything else? And when you listen to this super booper preacher, I mean, is that not like reading a book? Is he not violating his own recommendations? This is preposterous." But no, he continued listening to him, and somehow he decided that this will make him more cautious Christian. And then he got this idea: "I will return for a short while to my relatives, to their house, to save them and make them take the right decision in these important times. Maybe because of if I'm not there, maybe they will take the wrong decision." Now, what was the situation with his relatives is he lived he was away on his own for a long time, just because they were like mean people, not because of the end times. On the top of that, all of them without an exception have already taken the first stage of marking. So when I heard that he is going to return to that house, I, as if somebody else was moving my mouth, I started telling him that your relatives will become completely different. Once you get there, it will be like a trap. You won't be able to escape. First, they will corner you, and then they will hold you at gunpoint and force you to take the mark. And as I was talking, because I didn't know practically anything about these people, I only knew that they have accepted the first stage of the mark. I was even wondering to myself, who is moving my mouth? Can I judge the people just from one thing that I know about them? But still, I was talking, and I was telling him a very grave picture of what is about to happen. But he did not take me seriously. His head was completely taken over by this pure Christian teacher. He said, "Oh, it's of course possible that you're right, but then I will just leave." I mean, he said, "I have my personal will. They cannot force me. How will they force me? If I see something like that," he says, "I will, of course, go away. I'm just going to check out," he said, "what's going on, and if they are not willing to listen, I will again be on my own." Okay. And then after that, he went to visit them just to see how it is. And I never heard again from him, which was very suspicious. I just got a note, do not contact me ever again, it's very dangerous. And so he disappeared. And actually, it was a couple of weeks after that that, by some mistake that these relatives made in their pathetic scenario and theater, that I could find out the actual story uh, which happened. So once he went home, before that, at least they were treating him like trash. But as long as he worked and gave them all the money that he earns, he was allowed at least to breathe on his own somewhere. They don't care where. But once he went to their home, all of a sudden they got this genius idea that now we are gonna make him a perfect Christian like us, like ourselves, they say, because they say we are absolutely free of sin and he is like garbage. So what does it mean to be perfect Christian like themselves, to make him like that? Well, because he always does wrong. He didn't do whatever they tell him, or at least they imagine so. He's under strict control. He cannot go anywhere. He's being tracked digitally, everything, car, phone. He's forbidden to have any personal contacts unless they know what is he talking about with given people. Of course, people like me, or probably all sensible people, are blacklisted. He has to report everything he does, everybody he meets, absolutely everything, and beg for approval, or else. And what they're threatening him with, that I'm not gonna tell you about, but it's extremely cruel. His situation is already grave. I mean, as bad as pre-tribulation or even tribulation. It's extreme. At this point, I saw him only once, very shortly after they took upon their program of making him a real Christian. He was already half dead. And some of his relatives work in the medical field, and in the way they control him in such a cruel way, I wouldn't be surprised if they fix him as he sleeps. These people, they wouldn't hesitate to do anything, absolutely anything. And when I learned about this development of the situation, then I understood what was actually moving my mouth. Because when I was telling him, first they will corner you and then they will put you at gunpoint. And that's exactly what they did, not with arms, but they have other ways uh, of forcing people to do what they don't want. I mean, forcing other people to do things they don't want to do. And when I found out what exactly happened to him, I was so sad also, because he is my friend, and also so shocked how is it possible that an intelligent man who just a couple of weeks ago understood, I mean, everything very well, he- how could he have been so much out of his mind to think that he can advise these people when they're controlling him like a dog on a short leash? For example, he himself, maybe a couple of weeks prior to that, he was himself telling me that whoever has not understood what is going in the world right now, he's not going to understand it now if you explain to them. And at the same time, he knew that his uh, proper Christian relatives, they don't care about the end times. They say we are sinless. God will protect us under any circumstances, so we can do anything. It doesn't matter. And this actually is very much related to what somebody reported from Holland. Namely, that so many young people who just a couple of weeks before that were absolutely convinced that they are against fixing, all of a sudden, as if overnight, they change their mind and they go for it. Well, if you remember the Muslim prophecies, this is exactly what they say. Even people with good hearts, when they're influenced by this really black magic, some people see it as malevolent wavelengths, 5G or something else. That could be the medium, but the proper word is black magic. Even good-hearted people, they will go to sleep normal and will wake up as demons and will follow the demonic agenda. And after thinking carefully, why did such a thing happen to my friend, I also understood that it is not by chance. It is not, it was some qualities inside him, and that's why he caught the bite of this so-called good Christian preacher on YouTube. And that's why he also developed this slight resentment and doubt in me without any reason. I've noticed that people that start going the wrong way, all of a sudden, even without anything changing or without me saying anything, all of a sudden they develop this resentment just because they choose different path. And then all these strange ideas came into his mind, and he started deceiving himself. He said, "Oh, one should be with one's relatives, one family." I mean, how can you call these people family? They're, I mean, openly your enemies. There is no love there in their household, so to say. It's pure hatred and hostility, extreme hostility towards each other. So what is very important to understand is that people will choose to get marked or not based on some sort of advice somebody gives them, or not even according based on their religion. As we know, most of the religious people will betray, or actually have already betrayed their Lord. Muslims, Christians, they have accepted the mark. So being religious is obviously no longer irrelevant, and he used to understand that. But it will depend on the qualities of their soul. So the big mistake he made was to believe that people like his relatives, which have made hatred the way of their life, and also looking at what they do, I mean, tracking people digitally, keeping them practically prisoner. I mean, are these godly qualities? How could have been he could have become so naive to think? And he told me, "Oh, this is my duty. Christ wants me to go there now to my people because this is such an important time." How could have thought such nonsense? It's because he could not distinguish between the godly qualities and the qualities of the demonic people. And these possessed people, they are very clever. It's very important for them to cut off every possible way for the souls to be in contact with somebody who doesn't buy their nonsense. That's why they're not allowing him to talk to people like me. And even if after I found out about his sad condition, I was thinking, should I help with some sort of mantra, like for releasing trapped person? But then I understood that this could be actually wrong on my side, because I don't know what his state of mind. Maybe he does not understand that he is a prisoner. Maybe he's still under the illusion that Christ wants him to be there. Who knows? Maybe he thinks, he really believes that they're making him a good Christian. I don't know. Is he gone completely crazy, or has he come to his senses? Because if he has chosen to become like them, then it would be really like a black magic on my side to try to free him and influence events. So I cannot do that. I don't have the right to do that, because good souls, they never try to force anything on anybody, even if it is a good thing. Yes, if I knew that somebody is really held against his will, absolutely unlawfully, yes, then I could pray their mantras for releasing and for removing such malevolent people. But he went there absolutely by his own will. Maybe he still wants to be there. Maybe he believes that this digital prison in which they have put him is making him a Christian. So I don't know how will this story end for him, but if somebody ends up in such a situation, what is the way out? What if he now realizes, oh, I have done the wrong thing? These people have sold their own souls, and now they're not satisfied with that. They want to force me to do the same. What he should do? He cannot escape anymore physically. He cannot leave the place. He can only go out for business with reporting, or something very bad will happen to him. So, in such a situation, his only hope is to go completely into prayer, maybe even also fasting as much as possible, and really a desperate prayer and a call to the Lord to somehow change the situation, and also understanding what mistake he has done in his understanding, and where did he go wrong. So once the philosophical mistake is corrected, then the Lord is very likely to hear his prayer. And in Vedic context, there are mantras for that, but one can remove such enemies only when they are really malicious. If one uses such mantras just because one thinks those people are bad, but actually the person who thinks so is the confused one, then the mantras will backfire and harm him. In the Vedas, these are Stamban mantras, Uchchatan mantras. Normally, they are classified as black magic, but as discussed in the video about usage of black stones, originally, why did the gods give the science of black magic to start with? The benevolent gods. Why did they teach such things to humanity? Well, they did it originally. Black magic was not taught to harm innocent people as it is used today, sadly, in such a manner. Originally, it was exactly for situations when one is held prisoner and one doesn't have physical means to fight. Then one can do Uchchatan and Stamban mantras. This will prevent the enemy from harming him in a relatively gentle way, and this is good for the demonic person who is bothering somebody. The way these mantras work is when the person who is harming the other one decides to take a certain action, he will just something else will come in the middle. All of a sudden somebody will ring and there will be an urgent matter to attend to, or one will get sleepy or distracted, or sometimes you just forget what you're doing, or what you were thinking few minutes ago. Such things will repeatedly happen when they try to harm the person who is defending himself with this type of mantras. These are the Stamban mantras. They kind of put a barrier. They don't allow any malevolent action. And your Chatan mantras, they completely remove the harmful people from the life completely. All of a sudden, the people who is so aggressive, they will find something else to be busy with. They will no longer have time on or interest to bother the person whom they are bothering. What will exactly happen to them? That depends on their karma. It could be good or bad, or it could be simply a change in their interest in their mind. But something will happen. This is the elegant way to resolve such problems. But Christian people nowadays, they don't know about these techniques. I do believe that they were there in ancient times. At the time of Christ, I'm sure he taught all the proper sciences to the people at that time, or at least they were not forbidden. If he didn't teach them personally, probably he taught other things in person. But anyhow, I'm still reflecting aloud about the situation of this person, because he is the perfect candidate for forced marking. And all of this started with this probably this poison from YouTube. And I don't know if it is exactly from this preacher that he started listening to, or around that time when he told me that he's listening to this new preacher that he found, they also started showing black magic ads on YouTube in such a way that people will it looks very innocent, as if sick people, sick children are talking, and it's one can even feel pity. And for the superficial observer, there will be nothing suspicious in these ads, but actually they have a really very powerful black magic in them. And just recently, YouTube sends this newsletter. I never read it, but this time I randomly opened and I just read one line. And from now on, they have changed their terms of use, and ads can appear even on any video now, even for people who are not monetizing their channels. Ads can appear on the videos. Before that, they were doing tricks, with all kinds of, as if somebody has copyright fringe, and they put on the ads with all kinds of pretexts. But now they're openly telling that we can show ads on any video about asking you. So this I really don't like. What if they start putting those toxic black magic spells even on my video? I really don't know what to do. All the other alternative platforms, there will be almost nobody watching the videos. It won't be worth making them. Just because when I've tried this in the past, I make a video and I announce I have published the resource somewhere else. You can find the link in the description. End of the video. Yeah, I announced that, and let's say 20,000 people will open that video, they will hear that, they will see the link, but only 1/4 of them will click on it and follow up. This is because people are so much robotized and automated. They just only, they're so much controlled that they only understand, I watch whatever I see on YouTube, I watch whatever I see on YouTube. And if my video, if my actual content was on YouTube, they would have watched it. But when I suggest some other action that is not in what YouTube has programmed them into doing, they simply don't do it. They are like, they are mesmerized by the commands. They're already half cyborgs. And it is absolutely possible that exactly these ads it was them that put the black magic in the head of my friend. This story also illustrates how being a strict Bible fanatic, ironically, doesn't bring one nearer to Christ, because it can also make one more susceptible to accepting the mark of the beast. And the evil possessed relatives and the evil possessed people, they do it very subtly. They bring up topics like, for example, the one which is under question here. Actually, I have even cut part of the comment because I don't want to advertise any groups of questionable standing. And basically it boils down to, was Christ really born in Judea? All I know for sure was that there were 3 Christ figures. That is from the set material, and that's why I consider it the only absolutely reliable information. And because Christ came in the body of 3 people, because being Son of God, one single human body could not carry all the energies of such a big thing. And since it was 3 people in our terms, their life stories got somewhat mixed, and this is one of the reasons for which some people say Christ was actually like this or over there or like that, and those stories may appear contradictory. However, Seth doesn't mention the geographical birthplace or ethnic origin of any of them. So, from what we know for sure, it becomes even more difficult to figure out was he or at least one of them really born in Judea. According to Fomenko, the New Chronology Project, he did an extensive research and he reached the conclusion that Christ, or in our terms, the main Christ figure, probably, or maybe one of the secondary, was actually a king somewhere on the shores of the Black Sea. And the reasons for that is that, first of all, in the old hymns, and even in many of still the current Christian hymns, he's addressed as our king repeatedly. He's a king, and people are going to bow down in front of their king. So, and further, Anatoly Fomenko found lots of evidence that he was really, really a king. And also, when they were changing the Bible in the Middle Ages, many references to, for example, weather conditions involving snow and that type of weather, they were deliberately removed when the current Bible was cooked. Also, he presents evidence in terms of how people were dressed to prove that actually the weather was not at all desert-like where Christ was born and raised. And that is from the old texts. He also shows a lot in his research, lots of artwork based on by older artists during the times when they were changing the Bible and still the old information was somewhat available. So they were painting the flags of completely different countries. Also, the people were dressed for really snow-like conditions around Christ. So he's got a lot of evidence that Christ was actually a king somewhere in the area of the Black Shore. And based on completely different sources, according to Alexander Paramonov, he says that the story, which is that's how he formulated it, that you find lots of different stories about who Christ was and where was he born, etc. And he says that the closest to the truth out of all of those that I have encountered is that he was a king called Radomir. Again, Ra comes up in the area of the Black Sea. He did not say this is exactly how it was. He just said that this seems to be the closest to the truth. And if we see it from perspective of what Seth says, it really makes sense to say that it is at least closest to reality. And in addition to that, there are a number of sources saying that the future capital, the rebuilt capital of Christ when he comes as king again, it will be at the old place, and that old place will be again on the shore of the Black Sea where it always was. And as far as the Messiah figure and Messiah title, Moshiach, in their Middle Eastern language, I'm convinced that originally this title was used to describe Christ. Sure, that's how it was. But then, since this is a very important matter for them now, they started preparing since medieval times, and that's why they twisted some of the language of the Bible. And when the right time comes for them, they will use these twisted statements to bring up the false Messiah and make him the king of the world. So basically, those with a pure heart, they will figure out the truth. They can figure out the truth even only by reading the Bible. And my friend was going that way for years. When I met him, he was in very good state. And how did they manage with this black magic to cloud his mind? I'm really shocked. But we were warned exactly about this type of black magic, and the way it works is they set traps. And if we lack in certain quality, we may be tempted to try some of their traps, and it will be usually, let's try it a little bit, and maybe if it doesn't work, then I don't do more. That's what he was thinking. I will just go and talk to them for a short while, and if it doesn't work, I will leave again. But now he cannot leave. So all these traps are designed in such a way that one will go very near and then slip inside, and one cannot get out. And the only way, because we have a lot of qualities to work on, we should not rely on being flawless. We should also rely on not going near the traps at all, which means using as little internet as possible, and also all the media, even the alternative media. Also, what I don't like about it more and more, if you open practically all alternative sources, you will see all these high quality photos of devils. This is dangerous. People like Bill Gates, I mean, these are high-level devils. They have black magic. Just to look at them, it's also dangerous. We acquire their qualities when we make their image a focus of our meditation or of our attention, even daily attention. That is a type of meditation. And now a few words on water and food preparedness, although that will be useful mostly for those who are in the countryside, because the people in the cities, most of them will be forced to relocate, and if they remain there, they will have to live with strangers in ruins. This type of a short period, luckily, not for long. So drinking water, it seems it will disappear completely towards the end of the tribulation for a couple of months or a couple of years. And besides burying in the ground bottles with water, you could vacuum seal some of this chemical together with the instructions of how to make your own charcoal, and that will help you purify whatever dirty water you may find at that time. In addition, it would be a good idea to get now some maybe second-hand, very cheap survival encyclopedia or guidebook. Over there, surely there will be instructions of how to make easily water filter. Of course, it will be way more advantageous to substitute the big stones with the crystals. And then the other very important point about water is to have a good supply of MMS. The link to that and the explanation was in the practical preparations episode. So MMS is not only probably the best thing for water purification, but also as medicine and air purification, because there will be lots of airborne contagious bugs. So having a good amount of MMS is, I think, essential. Now, this type of bags are supposed to be the best for long-term food storage. It seems they give also, they're plastic, but they're supposed to give somewhat of heat protection and light protection as well. Plus, they're advertised as having more qualities than the ordinary plastic. Now, the vacuum sealer machine, which I recommended in the practical preparedness episode, that requires a special type of nylon bags, which are not particularly cheap. But you might be able to use the same machine with the other aluminium-like bags. And in general, when you want to use ordinary plastic bags with this machine, the way to do it is to cut a small stripe of this special plastic bag, and then when you seal, one end of the stripe should cross the line which you will be sealing, and the other one should touch very well the food ingredients which are inside the bag. That is very important. Now, after researching further what kind of food can be stored for 10 years, I reached the conclusion that in terms of staple food supplies, it is best to choose a few items from the list which will follow, depending on what you like. Pasta, you should just be careful not to select some variety with some sort of oil added or something like that. Anything with oil will not last long. So no matter what you buy, always pay attention that there isn't much oil in it. If it is less than 1%, you are on the safe side. So first is pasta, then white rice. Don't go for the brown or whole grain rice. That will go bad very quick because it's got oil. Number 3, quinoa. Number 4, oats. Also, I think in America they have things like instant oats, which should be even better. And then potato flakes or even potato flour, that is more or less the same thing. Again, you should pay attention that it doesn't have some sort of additions like oil. All this, if it is vacuum sealed, it will last 10 years. And by the way, these potato flakes, when mixed with the instant low-fat milk, which I already recommended previously, that for now I see is the best option for those who have cats or dogs, because the cat or dog food, that will not last long. Just when you select your milk, powder milk, again, be sure that it's got fat content below 1%. Don't forget some dry bifidus culture so that you can make yogurt. And milk products will be obviously a top luxury during the worst period. And it's not hopeless. There are some types of cheese like Parmesan, which will last 10 years. Again, they must be vacuum sealed. Basically, all these very hard varieties of cheese, they definitely stand a chance for 5 or even 10 years. Now, the situation with the cooking oil seems to be difficult, but it's not completely hopeless. This is obviously one type of supply which you should get as late as possible. The things which last 10 years, you can get them even now. But if you can get some olive oil, let's say, after 5 years, then it's got a chance to last 5 years until the end. So it's a question of timing and luck. Other oils, they will last only 1 or 2 years. Basically, the general rule with oils is that they will last 2 to 3 times longer than the best expiration date which is printed on them. Twice from the time they are manufactured, of course. And there is only one oily thing which will last 10 or even 100 years, and that is ghee. Now, I've never tried myself how does 10-year-old ghee taste. It's in the description, it says bitter and pungent. But the thing is, if the ghee is really vacuum sealed very well, it will not go bad, but gradually it will turn into medicine. And in 10 years, it will be no longer called ghee, but Purana Grita. And it will be a very powerful medicine. By the way, one of the sicknesses for which it is prescribed is possession by evil spirits. So there will be lots of demand for it in 10 years from now. So, in other words, there is no guarantee that it will be tasty after 10 years, but even if it is not, still it is supposed to be a very powerful medicine. And by the way, I was reading about the side effects of Purana Grita in Ayurveda. So it says that it basically doesn't have any. Only if it has not been sealed properly, it may have slight transitory side effects, but still it should not be discarded, and even in that condition it is recommended as medicine. I'm not sure if you'll find such tips, compilation of tips about luxury apocalypse anywhere else on the internet. Just one thing about such a ghee is that you have to make it yourself. Don't buy anything from the shop because we don't know which companies really have pure ghee. Maybe there are companies that really pack pure ghee, but obviously this is as everything else is mostly mixtures, so it's very easy to make ghee when you see butter on promotion in your local supermarket. Get a big quantity and make ghee yourself. Very quick and easy. Now, the information for preppers in terms of canned food is very contradictory, and after reading various sources, I reached to the conclusion that many of the people don't know what are they talking about. First of all, I will tell you about a test which my father made here a couple of years ago. When I got the house, it was abandoned maybe, let's say, at least 15 years ago, and there was food in cans and also in jars. And at that time, my father was curious and he opened some of them. Actually, some of the jam at that time was still in very good condition. He tried it and he sampled it and he did not get sick, and he said it's very tasty actually. That jam was in glass jar. And as far as the canned food, it was all of it in deplorable condition. I mean, it was already leaking. The metal was rusted and perforated by insects. So all these things that you will read that they still find canned food from the Second World War and is still eatable. The reason for that, as I found explained in an article of people who seem scared to check what is that all about, is that at that time they were actually manufacturing high quality canned food in terms of packaging and the ingredients also inside the um, uh, can. And it turned out that nowadays we put mostly low grade ingredients. So most of the modern preserved food in cans will go bad in 2, 3, 4, maximum 5 years. So do not rely much on that, much on such things, unless you know that some company is really making high quality stuff and they are using only olive oil. Still, I assume that you should be looking for canned food with a very low oil content. Some people say fish will, high quality fish will remain good even for 10 years canned. I don't understand how is that possible if any oil by default should go bad in maximum 5 years, even oil, even olive oil. So, but there are such reports. Still, to be on the safe side, when you shop for canned food, be sure it is with olive oil and I guess preferably with low oil content. So, speaking in terms of oil going bad relatively fast, what will you do for hand cream when it gets dry? I would suggest the solution to get aloe vera plants now because they don't grow extremely fast, and cultivate them for medicine and for cream. There are also some sort of dry shampoos. Some of them can be easily made even at home. In case there is a shortage of water, it could be very unpleasant if we could not wash our hair for a long time. By the way, one big plus point of the potato flakes, which I mentioned earlier, is that they don't require serious cooking. Just once you need to boil the water and put them inside, and that's all. And that could be very useful when you don't have lots of wood or means to make a fire and cook. There are also a few types of very basic bread. Just mix flour, water, and salt and bake it. until it is almost like cement. That will also last 10 years when vacuum sealed, and that can be just made moist and eaten anytime without any cooking. In overall, although in the vision in this very same episode, it said that it will be more or less as it is now for 4 or 5 more years, still I would recommend by the end of this summer to get all the things which will last for 10 years, because we don't know when they will introduce all kinds of quotas. Here where I am, it's still very mild, but now and then one encounters quotas when trying to shop. And because they are suppressing international transport with these new rules, there could be a lot of problem with quotas very soon, possibly, and the rising food prices are guaranteed because they have demolished the economical infrastructure to such an extent that's unavoidable. So all the long-lasting food ingredients, please get them by the end of this summer. And also get few bags of cement. That will also last forever if you store it very well in a really dry place. Because if you have not yet felt how important it is to have good hiding places, as Gottfried from Werdenberg was recommending, you will figure it out within a couple of years, and then it might be too difficult to get cement. Or whatever other ingredients you will be using depending on where you want to store your things. I was thinking if it is underground, then maybe outside wrapping with aluminum foil would be good in areas where there are lots of moles, like here. So that's it for today, and special thanks for all those who said a prayer for my soul. It really worked. I'm not saying this just out of politeness, but I think I felt the effect on the very next day of publishing the video. And I believe that was the main thing which pulled me out of that dark well almost completely already. And since a couple of videos I'm trying to make this downloadable gift something for which hundreds of people have asked over the years, I cannot publish that in a video, but I'm allowed to send it only privately by email. So you can just drop me an email with subject gift and text of the email gift, and that's all. And you will receive in reply the download link. I hope it will work this time. Have a nice day, and I hope you have learned something.